بسم الله إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون يا أيها الناس اتقوا ربكم الذي خلقكم من نفس واحدة وخلق منها زوجها وبث منهما رجالا كثيرا ونساء واتقوا الله الذي تساءلون به والأرحام إن الله كان عليكم رقيبا يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله وقولوا قولا سديدا يصلح لكم أعمالكم ويغفر لكم ذنوبكم ومن يطع الله ورسوله فقد فاز فوزا عظيما أما بعد فإن خير الكلام كلام الله وأحسن هدي محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم وشر الأمور محدثاتها وكل محدثة بدعة وكل بدعة ضلالة وكل ضلالة في النار. We were speaking about the shurut, or the difference between shurut al-nikah wa shurut fi nikah and shurut bimuqtada aqd al-nikah wa shurut fasida. We were talking about the conditions of marriage, or what renders the actual contract valid, is that which is called shurut al-nikah or shurut sihhat al-nikah, the conditions of what validates the marriage contract. We said that's the first category. We talked about that for the past 2 weeks, so I don't think it's a need for us to elaborate it again. Number two, the shurut that's in the marriage contract, the conditions or the prerequisites that's made in the contract. And that was the meaning of the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ here, where he said, إِنَّ أَحَقَّ الشُّرُوطِ أَن يُوَفَّ بِهِ مَا اسْتَحْلَلْتُمْ بِهِ الْفُرُوجِ. That's the meaning of the hadith that we were speaking about in Buloogh al-Maraam, when the Prophet ﷺ mentioned it, said that the most deserving of those conditions that needs to be fulfilled or should be fulfilled is that which made your private parts lawful. We said that hadith, ya ma'ashal ikhwa wal akhawat, or those who are listening, we said that the hadith applies to the second category. Those conditions which are a shurut fi nikah, conditions that are made in the contract. And I wanted to also share and add with the great Imam Salih Fawzan ibn Abdullah al-Fawzan hafidhullah wa ra'ah, we mentioned in this regard, but he gave some extra details what I think is very important for this matter, so we can attain more clarity. That he was given different examples of this likewise, as we gave numerous and various examples in the last lesson. So likewise, we wanted to increase and augment some clarity even more for our people, so it could be even more clear. Because we know the more examples you give, the more the affair becomes clearer. That he said in the different examples of the second category, which is called a shurut fi nikah, he said the conditions that are made in the contract. He said هذا تنبيه على آكدية الوفاء بالشروط لأنه صار من جملة الصداق ومن جملة ما استحل به فرجها، فيجب عليه الوفاء بهذه الشروط المتفق عليها. أما إذا كان الشروط محرما فإنه لا يجوز لا في الزواج ولا في غيره، لقوله صلى الله عليه وسلم كل شرط ليس في كتاب الله فهو باطل. He says that this is to give some awareness. He says how highly emphasize fulfilling the conditions. That it says it becomes from min jumlat as-sadaq. The conditions that are made in the marriage contract, brothers, this is bad adab. First of all, you got one brother sitting all the way over there. Then I can hear you whispering. He says this is to give awareness of akidiyat al-wafa'i bi-shurut. He says to give high emphasis on fulfilling the conditions. He says because it's from the actual sadaq itself. He said because it's from the actual diary. The Prophet ﷺ gave clarity in the hadith where he said, لِأَنَّهُ صَارَ مِنْ جُمْلَةِ الصَّدَاقِ. He says it's from the actual diary itself. The conditions that are made, meaning that's put in the contract. He says, لِأَنَّهُ مِنْ صَارَ مِنْ جُمْلَةِ الصَّدَاقِ. It's as if he's saying that the conditions that a woman and the man that they negotiate and they also try to attain what is suitable for both parties, it's as if it's part of the sadaq. So it's as if it's part of the diary. It's as if it is part of the diary. He said, rather, it is min jumlat as-sadaq. It is a part of the diary. So if it's part of the diary, then it has to be what, everyone? It has to be fulfilled. He says, وَمِن جُمْلَةِ مَسْتَحَلَّ بِهِ فَرْجَهَا. And it's also from the parts in which he had made her private part or their private parts for each other lawful. فَيَجِبُ عَلَيْهِ الْوَفَاءُ بِهَذِي الشُّرُوطِ الْمُتَّفَقِ عَلَيْهَا. In this regard, now it's obligatory upon them to fulfill these stipulations that it is agreed upon. That's why the Prophet ﷺ said, أَحَقُّ الشُّرُوطِ أَن يُوَفَّ بَهِ مَا اسْتَحْلَلْتُمْ بِهِ الْفُرُوجِ. Meaning that those conditions that you make in the contract, it is a part of the diary. And it has to be what? Fulfilled. فيجب عليه الوفاء بهذه الشروط المتفق عليها. أما إذا كان الشرط محرما فلا يجوز فإنه لا يجوز لا في الزواج ولا في غيره لقوله صلى الله عليه وسلم كل شرط ليس في كتاب الله فهو باطل. He says, as for those conditions that are unlawful, he says, then it's not obliged. It's not obliged upon any of the spouses to fulfill it, nor is it permissible to even mention it in the contract. Due to the hadith of, we know in fiqh, that tremendous hadith, what they call hadith barira. Any condition that's not in the book of Allah, or that's not in the book of Allah, meaning it is a condition that is batil, it is false. Then the Shaykh, he goes on to give more explanation and more clarity of different, or giving different examples where he says, وَكَمَا لَوْ شَرَطَتْ عليه أن لا تلد وأن تأخذ موانع للحمل فهذا شرط باطل. He says, for example, that which goes against, meaning the conditions that are corrupt or conditions that are batil, that are false, or those conditions that are considered fasid, they are considered false. He says, for example, that which goes or contradicts the muqtada al-aqd, meaning that which is already given in the contract, meaning it's from something that's supposed to be already known and established. For example, he says, for example, a woman will say, or make a stipulation upon a man that I do not want to have any children. She says, لو شرطت عليه أن لا تلد. She makes a stipulation upon him that says, I do not want to have any children. I want to marry you, but I don't want to have any children. And for example, she takes mawani al-haml. She takes that which will prevent her from getting pregnant. Or she takes some of those pills which are considered contraceptives or something that will prevent her from getting pregnant. He said this condition is batil. This condition is what? Batil. It's false. Of course we know if it's a medical condition, like it might kill her, for example, I would like to not get married the first 2 or 3 months of the marriage due to the fact that I have a medical condition. That's something different. We're not talking about that. We're just saying, for example, a woman just says without any type of reason, with not any justifiable reason, that I do not want to have any children. She'll say, I want to marry you with the condition that I do not want to have any children, without any justifiable reason. If this is the case, then the shart is batil, because we know from the tremendous goals of nikah is to make the ummah multiply, is to make the nation and continue the progeny of one's family, and also to grow the nation of the Muslims. He says, لِأَنَّهُ يُنَافِي مُقْتَضَى الْعَقْدِ. It goes against that which necessitates the marriage, or from the goals of the marriage. بَلْ يُنَافِي أَعْظَمَ مَقَاصِدِ الزَّوَاجِ أَلَا وَهُوَ الْإِنْجَابِ. Rather, it opposes the lofty goals of marriage, which is for the people to multiply, to continue the lineage and the progeny of the people. Then he says, وَكَذَلِكَ إِذَا شَرَطَتْ أَنَّ الطَّلَاقِ بِيَدِهَا. He says another example of these type of conditions which are batil. He says, إِذَا شَرَطَتْ أَنَّ الطَّلَاقَ بِيَدِهَا فَهَذَا شَرْطٌ بَاطِلٌ لأن الطلاق جعله الله بيد الزوج وليس بيدها. Especially likewise, that a talaq, or marriage, a woman might say, I will make it a condition in the contract that you make divorce in my hands. That you make the affair in my hands of divorce. He said, likewise, this is a shartun batil. This is a condition that is false. Because talaq, Allah Ta'ala, or divorce, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made it in the hands of the man. Biyad al-zawj, in the hands of the man or the husband. Not in her hands. Excuse me. He said that all these shurut, all these type of stipulations are batila. تخالف كتاب الله فهي باطلة. أما إذا كانت الشروط لا تخالف كتاب الله وللمرأة فيها مصلحة فإنه يلزم الوفاء بها. بل هي أولى الشروط بالوفاء لأنه استحل بها فرجها. Then he goes on to say these conditions oppose or in contrast to the book of Allah. And if that's the case, then they are batila. He says, as for the conditions that they do not oppose the book of Allah, and for the woman in that affair or in those conditions is a maslaha, is a benefit for her, he says, for it's obligatory that they be observed and they be fulfilled. He says, rather, they are the most deserving conditions to be fulfilled. Because those are the conditions, like we said, in which made her private part lawful. So the Shaykh, he gave more examples of this matter about the different conditions. There's some other explanation or commentary that he gave in order to clarify this affair more, where he says, for example, he says, now, if let's just say that the husband did not fulfill this condition, so what happens? Does the marriage automatically dissolve? Is the contract, is it now rendered invalid? What exactly takes place? He says, فإنه يجب الوفاء بها فإن أخل الزوج بشيء منها فلها خيار الفسخ كما لو شرطت أو اشترطت عليه أن لا يتزوج عليها فهذا شرط صحيح. He says, for example, also, he's talking about some conditions which are valid that a woman can make in the contract if the man agrees and they negotiate and they agree. He says, for example, a woman will make a condition in the marriage contract of what has a benefit, with some type of benefit for her. For example, he says that a woman will say, that he will not get married again, or that he doesn't marry another woman. If he agrees to it, he says the shart is sahih. The shart or condition is correct if he agrees. He says because the annaha min maslahatiha, it is from her benefit if she gives a justifiable reason. Maybe she might think of herself, I'm too much of a jealous woman and I would not be able to control myself, or I'll fall into some haram if my husband was to get married again. My jealousy is too, or it reaches the level of going beyond the bounds, or it might take me out of my religion, or I might commit something that opposes my religion if he doesn't. If the husband agrees, then he said it's a condition that's valid. He said, فَإِذَا تَزَوَّجَ عَلَيْهَا. For example, now let's just say he infringes upon that condition. So what happens? Does the marriage dissolve? What takes place? It says now, in this instance, the woman has the choice. If the husband or he doesn't fulfill the condition, he now has the khiyar. He has the alternative to either. إن شاءت بقيت معه وإن شاءت طلبت الفسخ. Either, if she wills, she can remain with him. She can remain with him, or if she wills, she can seek a fasakh. She can to ask or request a dissolvement of the marriage contract, or ask for khula' or what have you. أو شرطت أن لا يخرجها من بيتها أو من بلدها ولا تذهب معه إلى بلده فهذا شرط صحيح كذلك لأنها لها فيه مصلحة. He says, for example, a woman will also likewise make another condition and say, for the husband, that you do not remove me out of my house, or do you do not take me out of my house with my family. Or, for example, that you do not remove me from my city or my residence that I'm in. He says, وَلَا تَذْهَبُ مَعَهُ إِلَى بَلَدِهِ, and I do not want to go with you to your city or your country. If she makes that her condition, he agrees, then that condition is valid. لِأَنَّهَا لَهَا فِيهِ مَصْلَحَةً, because that verily in that is a benefit for her. فإذا شرطت عليه شروطا فيها مصلحة لها وهي غير محرمة فإن تلك الشروط صحيحة. If those conditions, like we said, in it is a benefit for her and they're not unlawful, then like we said, those shurut are considered what? They're considered valid. And it's obligatory upon him to fulfill it. And likewise, vice versa. If the man requests for the woman certain conditions and she agrees, then, like we said, they have to be fulfilled. The reason why the Prophet ﷺ mentioned the hadith where he said that it is from those conditions that are the most deserving being fulfilled, like we mentioned, it said the reason why he mentioned this ﷺ, that it's from the conditions that makes the furuj, that it makes the private parts unlawful. Nobody has a pen or a pencil, nobody has no books, and nobody can use their phone, and nobody has anything. We said in this regard, the Prophet ﷺ mentioned this for what reason? He mentioned this because it is part of the sadaq, it's part of the dowry. It is part of the dowry. So they have to be fulfilled. One has to give the dowry, and likewise, if those conditions that are made in the contract, then they should be what? Fulfilled. So from the benefits of this hadith, so we can move on to the next one, because we spent a lot of time on these details. They mentioned it said, min fawaid al-hadith. So from the benefits of it is, Ibn Uthaymeen mentioned some of the tremendous benefits that's extracted from this narration, where he says, min fawaid al-hadith, جواز الشروط في العقود. لأن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم ذكر الشروط على سبيل الإطلاق. لكن هذا مقيد بما ثبت في صحيحين من حديث عائشة رضي الله عنها من قول الرسول عليه الصلاة والسلام كل شرط ليس في كتاب الله فهو باطل إلى آخره. وحديث النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم الثابت عنه المسلمون على شروطهم إلا شرطا أحل حراما أو حرم حلالا. He says from the benefits of the hadith, the permissibility of those conditions or stipulations that are made in the contract. Meaning they are from the awsaf, from the descriptions of the contract. We said this is the second category from what we mentioned last week. That the Prophet ﷺ mentioned, it said, or he mentioned shurut, he mentioned conditions in these narrations that we're going to say. He says, ala sabil al-itlaq. He mentioned them generally, that it's permissible to make conditions in the marriage contract. He says, however, these conditions are restricted of that which comes, or that which has been affirmed and established in the Sahihain, which is in al-Bukhari and Muslim from the hadith of Aisha. The Prophet ﷺ mentioned, said, every condition that is not in the book of Allah, then it is batil, then it is false, even if it's 100 conditions. And also the narration where the Prophet ﷺ mentioned, it said, al-Muslimuna ala shurutihim, إلا شرطا أحل حراما أو حرم حلالا. That the Muslims are upon their conditions, except the condition or prerequisite or condition that is makes something that it أحل حراما, that it made something unlawful, that it made it lawful, or a condition that it made something that was lawful in the book of Allah, that it turned it to being unlawful. From the benefits of the hadith, likewise, الساعة الشريعة الإسلامية حيث لم تضيق على المكلفين بشروط بل جعلت الباب مفتوحا لأن الإنسان قد يكون له أغراض يحتاج إلى شرطها والالتزام بها. He says you will find from the benefits of the hadith ساعة الشريعة الإسلامية. He says how you'll find that the religion in the book of Allah, in the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ, he says how the sa'a that it has in it. He says that how it has that openness in its vast, as far as in the trying to accommodate certain situations of the people. Certain situations of the people, meaning for their benefit. Of course, that which is in accordance to agrees with the religion. So, of course, naturally. He says, whereas it did not restrict or did not tudayiq على المكلفين بالشروط. He says that it did not restrict upon the people, upon those who it's obligatory upon them to fulfill the duties of the religion, the mukallafeen. He said that it did not just restrict or it made the situation tight upon them as far as in conditions. Rather, it left the door open for them. Because a person, of course, in the marriage, he has aghrad, meaning that he has certain circumstances. That he turned the fan on? No, good. It's good. Go leave it on. If it's too hot for you, go leave it on. That certain people have the aghrad, that they have certain circumstances and certain conditions that they're under, and they try to negotiate conditions so the situation will be suitable for both of them, meaning the husband and the wife. Like we said, we gave so many examples of this. For example, that I want to marry you, but for the first, maybe the first couple of months, I would like to remain with my family because my mother is sick or my mother has cancer, and I would like to take care of my mother before I move in with you. She makes that condition. That's for what? That's a beneficial condition. That's a beneficial condition, and she can request that. Or for the first 3 or 4 months, I would like to stay with my mother because she's sick, and I want to be by her side because she's sick. Before I move in with you, I would like to be by my mother and cater to her needs and service her and aid her before I move in. She can make that condition. There's nothing wrong with that. So this is an example to show how the religion how it tries to cater to a person's situation and to their condition, so it could be suitable for the both parties. Also from the benefits of the hadith, which says, ومن فوائد الحديث إثبات الشروط في النكاح وأنها أحق بالوفاء من غيرها. Also likewise from the benefits of the hadith is to establish or affirm or the establishment of the conditions in the contract. In the contract. So the meaning of the hadith is not the first category, right everyone? It's not the first category, which is shurut al-nikah. Shurut al-nikah. Those conditions that makes the marriage valid. It's not the first category. We said it is the second. So notice that Ibn Uthaymeen, the great imam, that he says that the hadith is applicable for the second category that we spoke about. That is what everyone? That is conditions that's made in the contract. And the reason why it's made in the contract, like we said, is from the jumlat as-sadaq, as he says. That is from the diary. And the person makes the conditions in the contract. He says, and how it is emphasized that they be fulfilled than other than that. Then he mentions, it says from the fawaid al-hadith, الرد على من ضيق الشروط في النكاح حتى كادوا لا يصححون إلا ما كان ثابتا بمقتضى العقد فإننا إذا لم نصحح إلا ما كان ثابتا بمقتضى العقد صار هذا الحديث لا فائدة منه لأن ما كان ثابتا في مقتضى العقد فهو ثابت شرط أم لم يشترط Trend of it. He says, and also what's extracted from the hadith, he says a refutation against those who ضيق الشروط. Like they try to make the shurut mudayiq. Like they try to restrict the conditions and make them very, very constricted. Those who try to constrict and make them hard inside of marriage. And it is a refutation against them. He says, whereas you'll find that they're not about to validate any conditions except that it has to be affirmed in what's in what's in accordance to the aqd. Meaning, that which has already been established. You'll find that there are from people, he says that they'll say the only conditions you can make, it has to be already established in the contract. Meaning that you have to ask a condition that's, for example, I make a condition upon my wife that if we get married, that you have to obey me, which is obedience to Allah and His Messenger. That's something that's already established. So there's no need to mention that. He's saying this is a refutation against them. They said this is the only type of conditions you can make. He said, in that is a refutation against them. He said, for thabit, he said, because it's already been affirmed. This is what he says. ما كان ثابتا في مقتضى العقد فهو ثابت. That which is in accordance to the contract, it's already been established. Whether you make a condition or whether or not you make it a condition. Just like the example I gave, right, everyone? You make it a condition, so I'm making a condition that you have to obey me of that which is in obedience to Allah and His Messenger. Whether you mention it or not, is it going to make any difference? It's not supposed to, because it's already what? It's already established. طيب. So he says, ومن فوائد الحديث أن ما كان معلقا بشرط لم يثبت إلا بتحقق هذا الشرط لقوله ما استحللتم به الفروج فإذا كان عقد النكاح مشتملا على الشرط فإن هذا العقد يعتبر مانعا من تحليل الفرج إلا بالوفاء به والتزامه. He says from the benefits of the hadith, he says أما أن ما كان معلقا بشرط لم يثبت إلا بتحقق هذا الشرط. He says also ما كان معلقا بشرط. He said that which a person makes a condition in the condition, or a person makes it, how can he, they make the actual prerequisite conditional. They make it conditional. He says لم يثبت إلا بتحقق هذا الشرط لقوله ما استحللتم به الفروج فإذا كان عقد النكاح مشتملا على الشرط فإن هذا العقد يعتبر مانعا من تحليل الفرج إلا بالوفاء به والتزامه. Basically he's saying here that this the condition that's made, that if the contract that it includes in it a type of condition, he said for verily the aqd, my ear, no I'm good, all right. ففعل the عقد يعتبر مانعا من تحليل الفرج إلا بالوفاء به والتزامه. He said this contract, he says it will prevent the private parts from being lawful, except if a person, of course, agrees to it and he fulfills it and he observes it, or he complies to it. Excuse me, he complies to it. He says, ومن فوائده, that the statement of Allah or the ayah and Allah of Allah Ta'ala in His book, Ya ayyuha alladhina amanu awfu bil uqud. Oh, you who believe, fulfill your contracts. The fulfilling the contract from that is fulfilling these conditions that a person mentions. Also, the last benefit, and we'll stop so we can start the next hadith. He says the benefit from it, that the asl fil furuj at-tahrim. Listen to this part. He said that the origin in private parts, that all of them are unlawful. The asl in furuj of private parts are what? They're unlawful. He says unless there's a what? Marriage contract. Or unless it's what? Bi mulki yameen. Of having or owning a concubine. That's something different. But in these days and times, there's no jihad, no legislated jihad. So a person can't say in America, I'm going to go to, Martin Luther King Boulevard, find some sister and say, I want you to be my concubine. If it felt right there on this paper, sign it. Here, I'll buy you here, I'll pay you this, and you can be my concubine. As I've heard this, even in Philadelphia, I heard that, I laughed. I said, wow. The origin of private parts is a tahrim, is that everything is unlawful. Unless it's by what? Marriage contract. He says, al-aslu fil furuji at-tahrim. Okay? So nobody could go to Martin Luther King Boulevard and say that I'm buying me a concubine and I'm going to allow her to live with me because she's a concubine of mine. We say, la. The only way the concubines are, that if it exists, and it's still, we say these ahkam, they could play at any given time if something was to happen or something trivial happens. But right now here in America, for I know, as far as in my knowledge, there is no concubines that could be taken in these days and times. There is no concubines because there's no legislated jihad. Legislated. As far as the jihad of the Khawarij and ISIS, those we don't even look to those type of jihad. All those type of jihad to us is rejected. طيب. ما استحللت به الفروج ولذلك لو اشتبهت أخت بأجنبية حرم عليه نكاح المرأتين جميعا. He says, however, for example, he says, if this is the case that the origin of the private parts is what? Is that they're unlawful. He says, then a person will have to be very cautious in regards to a woman that might, or probably, there might have been a probability that she might have given or breastfeed a certain child. These problems do occur because I remember when I was in Medina, as I was sitting with Sheikh Salih Sahimi, this was years ago, back in 03, 02. And I remember I was sitting in his office and he was giving fatwa to certain people that was coming in. So a man came in and he said, I want to marry a certain woman, but I'm not sure whether or not she's my sister or not, because I don't know if my mother said that her mother breastfed me. So I don't know if I can marry her because she might be my sister. Because we know that once a person, their mother, breastfeeds the baby, then now it's the same as if now that person's your family. They're in your family now. And we know that you cannot marry someone in your immediate family, you can't marry them. As far as long distance cousins, that's something different. But your aunt, your uncle, your mother, your father, that's what? All unlawful. Sisters, brothers, to the end of it. Of course, grandmother, grandfather. But distance cousin, that's something different. That's something different. But as far as in regards to the immediate family, or somebody who's your sister, brother, we know that's what? All that's unlawful. All that's unlawful. So that's what he's speaking about now. He said, if this is the case where the suspicion might be because of rada'ah, because of breastfeeding might come into place, and it might be a probability, it might be someone in your immediate family, then you should stay away from it and try to look for someone else to marry. Because we said the origin of the private parts is what? Everything is unlawful. And like we know, that breastfeeding makes unlawful the affairs of what the immediate family or of affairs with regards to the immediate family also makes things unlawful. Right, everyone? Everything in regards to breastfeeding in your immediate family, that all has the same hukum as far as those who are considered your relatives or the people in your immediate family. Once that person, like for example, this is also widespread in Morocco. This is widespread in Morocco. You'll find that a lot of families allow another woman to breastfeed the son of another friend of the family. Once they do that, then they could become almost like what? Their family and brother and sister and their families become linked. You understand? That's very widespread. So a person will have to know and be cautious, especially around those family members that have been breastfed by certain people's mothers, in order not to marry someone that's considered, as far as in Islam, or as far as in the ahkam religion or revolving around the religion, that somebody is considered that what their relative. Jayyid, or their immediate relative. طيب, we finished the hadith, we'll move on to the next one. The next hadith, if everyone looks, on the authority of Salama ibn al-Akwa' قال رخص رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم عام أوطاس في المتعة 3 أيام ثم نهى عنها. سلمة ابن الأكوع قال رخص رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم عام أوطاس في المتعة 3 أيام ثم نهى عنها. On the authority سلمة ابن الأكوع رضي الله عنه قال رخص رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم عام أوطاس, the year of Awtas. The Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم made it legal and lawful. The year of Awtas. We'll speak about the meaning of that. In the affair, what they call mut'ah. Mut'ah. The type of marriage which is called the marriage of pleasure. The marriage of pleasure. The Prophet ﷺ, just listen, that he made it legal, this type of affair, mut'ah, 3 days only, then he prohibited it. Then he made it unlawful. Rawahu Muslim. Then the next narration, if you look, on the authority Ali ibn Abi Talib, قال نهى رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم عن المتعة عام خيبر. أبو الحديث متفق عليه. Ali ibn Abi Talib رضي الله عنه, that the Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم prohibited the mut'ah, they call the marriage of pleasure, or the marriage of indulging, or just merely just what? Mut'ah of pleasure. For lack of better words, in Sahih Ta'bir, for lack of better words, mut'ah means pleasure. It means pleasure. So I'm giving a literal translation. طيب, عن المتعة, the year of Khaybar, the year of the battle of Khaybar. The hadith is also muttafaqun alayh. طيب. Also another narration, if you look in your books, on the authority Ali ibn Abi Talib, he says, أن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم نهى عن متعة النساء وعن أكل الحمر الأهلية يوم خيبر أخرجه السبعة إلا أبا داود. Can you read it for me? What does it say in your book? How they translate it? Khaybar. No, go ahead. You're good.
The Prophet forbade the temporary marriage muta of women donkeys.
The flesh of domestic donkeys. Mm-hmm. Except Abu Dawood. طيب. جيد. That the Prophet ﷺ prohibited temporary marriage, the marriage of pleasure, in which the Shia still practice these days. No, they still practice it. Still, they do a lot of strange things. Even though they claim that they follow Ali and they love Ali. And Ali is the one that narrated the prohibition of it. Do you notice this, everyone? The narration of prohibition was narrated by who? Ali, but they still practice it. It's known. They still do it. Absolutely. Absolutely. I already know. I was living in Saudi, and from the Mashayikh and from the ulama who mentioned that they still practice it to this day. But there's from a group from them that they still practice temporary marriage. No doubt. No doubt. So, but notice, keep in mind, these narrations are all narrated by who? Ali ibn Abi Talib. Who they so-called glorify. He's the imam. He's the one that deserves to be. That the Prophet should have been with him. They glorify to the utmost extent, and he's the one that narrated this hadith, and they reject it. Right? طيب. Salama ibn al-Akwa. But the next two narrations are narrated by who? Ali. طيب. The next narration, I'm writing all these together because they all are related. عن يثار ربيع ابن صبرة عن أبيه أن رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم قال إني كنت أذنت لكم في الاستمتاع من النساء وإن الله قد حرم ذلك إلى يوم القيامة فمن كان عنده منهن شيء فليخلي سبيلها. I don't know why it says فليخلي, بس كلاهما صحيح. فليخلي سبيلها لا تأخذوا مما آتيتموهن شيئا. أخرجه مسلم وأبو داود والنسائي وابن ماجه وأحمد وابن حبان. He said that the Prophet ﷺ, on the authority of Rabi' ibn Sabrah, on the authority of his father, that the Prophet ﷺ قال إني كنت أذنت لكم في الاستمتاع من النساء. Just listen. Verily I had given permission for you to to enjoy those women. Meaning, in regards to what? Temporary marriage. He said, for verily Allah indeed has made it unlawful all the way up to the day of resurrection. So whoever has from those women, meaning that they are under his protection or his care, and he does not want her, he said, then let her go. فَلْيُخْلِ سَبِيلَهَا. He said, فَلْيُخْلِ سَبِيلَهَا. He said, then let her go about her way. وَلَا تَأْخُذُوا مِمَّا أَتَيْتُمُوهُنَّ شَيْئًا. And do not take of what you give it to them, meaning of those sadaq or those dowry, anything you've given to them, do not take it back. Anything in the least. How's it translated in your book? Sorry, son.
I have permitted to you the temporary marriage of women, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has now prohibited you from that till the day of resurrection. So if anyone has any of these women in temporary marriage, he should let her go, and do not take back anything from what
he's given her.
Anything of what you have given her.
جيد. طيب. So it says whoever who's have married those women temporarily, فمن كان عنده منهن شيء فليخلي سبيلها. Whoever's from amongst you is still involved in that temporary marriage, then let her go about her way, let her go. As we'll talk about the benefits of the hadith, temporary marriage, of course, the time has been limited and restricted to a bounded time. Once the time is up, you have to let her go. Even if you love her, even if you have feelings, you catch feelings, you have to what? Let her go. That's the reason why it's what? It's evil. That's the reason why it's evil. And why it's what? Unlawful. Just listen. So the narration, the Prophet ﷺ basically here is saying that is what? This affair is clearly unlawful. So the establishment, or that which has been established and affirmed, is that nikah al-mut'ah is impermissible. What we're going to speak about is the difference between, is a lot of, or some of our brothers and sisters, they actually confuse and they mix up the two affairs of the difference between nikah al-mut'ah and az-zawaj bi niyyat al-talaq. They think it's the same. That temporary marriage or marrying a woman with the intention of divorcing her. They say it's what? It's the same. It's not the same. Even though both are what? Both are unlawful. One shouldn't do it at all. It doesn't befit the Muslims. But there's a difference between the two. There is. Absolutely. We'll talk about that inshallah. But both, it's upon the Muslims to stay away from both. Because no man in this room, and I'm sure, does not want a man to have ulterior motive of marrying his daughter that I'm sure that all of us probably have took time out to wore ourselves out of cultivating this child and raising her with morals and integrity and protecting her private part, and she's a person or she's a woman that's a virgin, and then a man comes and destroys all that in one night. A man that had ulterior motive and says, I'm marrying her with the intention eventually to what? To let her go. So all that gets destroyed within one night, 1 month, or probably 1-2 weeks. Oh, we're not getting along, I'm divorcing her. What happened? Because of his intent of what? He doesn't even want to stay with her in the first place. Another thing brothers have to take in consideration is the qa'idah of Allah Ta'ala always will deal with a person according to your niyyah. You'll always be dealt with in according to your intention. And if your intention is evil, or your intention is something that you're holding, or you have some type of conspiracy that you're intending to carry out, but you're showing the good to the people, that you're trying to get close by good morals and good character, and you smile in the people's face, but your intent is evil. Allah Ta'ala will deal with you according to your intention by either, like we said, of allowing something to happen that goes in contrast to your intention. Which they say, and you'll know that Ahl Ilm mention these affairs, what they say, يُعَامِلَهُ اللَّهُ بِنَقِيدِ قَصْدِهِ. That Allah Ta'ala will deal with the slave of opposing his niyyah. Of opposing his niyyah. Meaning that eventually you're going to harm yourself in the end. No matter what you intend of evil of, for example, trying to get over on someone, or trying to do something very perfidious and very slick, of lying to someone or trying to get over, or for example, doing something that no one knows except Allah Ta'ala what you intend. Of course, Allah knows what you're intending. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala deals with the ibad, especially those who intend evil, by opposing their niyyah, by allowing something to happen which goes against that, which will in the end be harmful for him. How many people we know have intended evil, ultimately in the end they lose out? It might be temporarily, as if the affair is for them and they're getting away with it. Then ultimately, Allah Ta'ala allows things to happen in the end to them, where they either get exposed or what? Or something evil happens to them, or it comes out eventually that person, he was intending evil, some type of way Allah Ta'ala exposes the sara'ir. He exposes the secret that the person was what? Was hiding, and he was what? Concealing. We've seen this all the time and over history. People that have tried and have done evil things, even though they displayed and manifested good, and that they want good, and that they're good, upright people, and they become who have nice shiny faces or long beards or good types of appearances, and if you see them, you will what? You will think that they're truthful. But however, Allah Ta'ala, like we said, He's the one knows the nawaya, the intentions of the slaves, in which He exposes by those people who intend evil. And like I said, there's never been anyone that intends evil, except in the end, Allah Ta'ala always exposes the person or allows something evil to happen, or as they say, we know the statement, you reap what you sow. And in the end, a person starts reaping, and then you start seeing, these are the results of your actions. And this is the results of what you were intending of evil in the first place. These are the what? These are the results of it. Now you start to reap in the end. As they say, it's reaping time. As we used to say here in America, what? The statement is what? It's reaping time. It's time for you to start reaping now. for which you have done of evil. Person, and that also goes in the hadith of Abu Musa al-Ash'ari, where the Prophet ﷺ had mentioned it said, إِنَّ اللَّهَ لَيُمْلِي لِلظَّالِمِ حَتَّى إِذَا أَخَذَهُ لَمْ يُفْلِتْهُ. He said, verily Allah will keep giving the oppressor what he wants. He'll give him what he wants, meaning he's leading him on. Leading him on, thinking he's getting away with it. Meaning that he's getting away with it. Until the time comes when Allah wants to take him, then he doesn't leave him off. You understand? So a person, if he intends evil, then likewise, like when we don't say this because we do not believe in karma. Those type of beliefs, we do not believe in them. They're trash, garbage. We don't believe in karma. But we do have the qa'idah, as we know, al-jaza' min jins al-amal. This is what the Muslims say. That the repayment is based upon your actions. You understand, everyone? The repayment is based upon your actions. طيب. So the hadith, we'll talk about that, inshallah, the difference between nikah al-muta'ah and what they call al-zawaj bi niyyat al-talaq. What time is it? 2:56. It's funny. Huh? And al-zawaj bi niyyat al-talaq. No, it's marriage with the intent of divorce. That's basically what it's called. Marriage with the intent of divorce. No, it's not the same as a temporary marriage. Not the same. We'll talk about it. Abu Khalil, you're hasty, you're rushing the issue. We was going to talk about that. Got you. I just have to keep you hanging and dangling so you can keep coming to class. That's what you do with the brothers and sisters. Keep teasing them until they can keep coming back to class. That's the strategy we do to try to get the people to learn. Keep them dangling, waiting to see the next class. طيب. The first hadith on the story is Salama ibn al-Akwa'. The Prophet ﷺ rakhasa Rasulullah ﷺ ama awtas. The Prophet ﷺ, he says that he made it legal and lawful during the year of awtas. The year of awtas. In temporary marriage, 3 days, then he prohibited it. What is Am awtas? Am awtas is Am Fath al-Ta'if. It was the year or the conquest of Ta'if. The conquest of Ta'if. Ta'if is a place that's very close to Mecca. Ta'if. And in the summertime, it is very nice. The weather is very nice in the summer. In Saudi Arabia, there's a place called Ta'if. It's right close to Mecca. And it's strange how close Ta'if is to Mecca. And during the summertime, the weather is very nice. And even Sheikh Salih Fawzan, during the summertime, he used to go there a lot. Sheikh Salih Fawzan used to go to Ta'if. He'll go for Riyadh, and he'll go to Ta'if and spend the summertime in Ta'if because the weather is nice during the summertime. The heat is not as it's not as dense, so it's not as severe. طيب. He says the Prophet ﷺ had came the conquest of Fath al-Ta'if. The conquest of Ta'if. Notice that it says, وَهُوَ فِي نَفْسِ الْوَقْتِ عَامْ فَتْحِ مَكَّةِ. So Am Awtas was the year, and the conquest also likewise in the same year of the conquest of Mecca. So we could say Am Awtas, Am Ta'if, or Am the year of the conquest of Mecca, the conquest of Ta'if, and the conquest of what? Of Awtas and Mecca all happened in the same year. Which year after the Hijrah, everyone? The conquest of Mecca happened in which year? We always say the 8th. The 8th year after the Hijrah. The 8th year after the Hijrah is when the conquest of Mecca took place, and also those tremendous great events in our religion that has a lot of benefits in it happened that year. Also, Sulhul Hudaybiyah, which led up to the conquest of Mecca. That's why you'll also find Ahl Ilm يعبر عنه بعام فتح مكة. You'll find that Ahl Ilm, they'll use the statements. Excuse me, everyone. It says, you'll find that Ahl Ilm, that they use the wording either by saying يعبر عنه بعام فتح مكة. They'll call it the year of the conquest of Mecca. Of course, that's the most what? Known, the most famous, known, and the most tremendous. He said also likewise, Shaykh Ibn Uthaymeen, he mentions, he says, وَتَارَةً يُعَبِّرُ عَنْهُ بِغَزْوَةِ أَوْطَاسٍ. You'll find that Ahl Ilm also they use the wording with the expedition of Awtas. And the year of Awtas, just it comes in this hadith that you're mentioning here, that we're mentioning here. Why you'll find that Ahl Ilm they call it either the conquest of Mecca or the year of what? Awtas. Why? Because they all happen in the same year, which is the 8th after the Hijrah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. That's what we want to sum up. So I want to make it confusing, drawing out the details. So that's basically what Ahl Ilm are mentioning here. So they either call it the conquest of Mecca or they call it what? The year of Awtas. Awtas. Awtas basically was a place that's close to Ta'if. It's a place that's close to what? Ta'if. It's still to this day, it's there. You'll find that people know where the exact place is. So Mecca, Ta'if, and Awtas are all in the same area. They're all close by each other. Jayyid. So I even mentioned even where it says, even Sheikh Salih Fawzan mentions the same thing. He says, وَفِي غَزْوَةِ أَوْطَاسِ هِيَ غَزْوَةُ حُنَيْن. So basically, غَزْوَةُ أَوْطَاسِ is also another name for the expedition of Hunayn. Hunayn, which is in the 8th year of Hijrah. As we know, غزوة Hunayn was also a tremendous battle. ورخص في ذلك التفت مع هوازن في وادي حنين وحصلت المعركة. We're talking about نعم. He says فانحاز بقايا هوازن إلى مكان يقال له أوطاس قريب من الطائف. He says that you'll find during the battle of Hunayn that the mushrikeen, the remnants of, as we know the Prophet ﷺ, the battle who he engaged with, the name of the tribe was Hawazin. Hawazin. And they were forced to a place called Awtas, which is close to Ta'if. So I just basically to sum up everything, Mecca, Ta'if, Awtas are all in the same what? Same area. All in the same area. So the Prophet ﷺ had forced the remnants, or those who remained from Hawazin, they backed them and pushed them to a place called Awtas, which is close to Ta'if. So the Prophet ﷺ had sent to them a Sariyah. He sent to them that Sariyah, or meaning, or what they call a katiba, or Sariyah. He sent to them that which is a part of an army, or a group, or a battalion. That's the word I was looking for. He sent a battalion with the leader of Abi Amir al-Ash'ari. His name was Abi Amir al-Ash'ari, and Allah Ta'ala had gave them victory over the mushrikeen. طيب. So just to sum up, because you have to know these dates, because the reason why we're trying to find when temporary marriage was what? Made unlawful. So we have to know the dates. It's very important, because you'll find that in the science of tariq or nasikh wal mansukh, from the conditions you'll find of, this is very important, this is a science too in our religion, this to let you know how perfect our religion is. There's a book called Nasikh wal Mansukh. That which abrogated, that's what abrogates and what was abrogated. That which abrogates, that which takes it out or cancels it out. And that which is mansukh, that which has been abrogated. What's the thing that canceled it out, and what was the affair that was what? Canceled out. You'll find from the shurut, the conditions of what they call the affair of nasikh wal mansukh, ma'rifati tarikh al-nasikh wal-mansukh. That you'll find the conditions of, for us to apply this affair, what was been abrogated. What's the abrogation? What abrogated, what has been abrogated, is to know the date of when it took place, when it was abrogated. So, that's the reason why you find that Ahl Ilm concentrate on. That's you'll find that Ahl Ilm, that they focus on the year of when these things took place, or when these events took place, because they're very important in knowing the affair of what they call nasikh wal mansukh. So in order for us to accept anything that's been abrogated in our religion, because there are certain things that have been abrogated, no doubt. As we know, that certain affairs in our religion have been what? In stages. Like for example, khamr. intoxicants, was in stages. But you will find that Ahl al-Ilm, that they have to know the date of when it took place of when the affair had became abrogated. That's the reason why we focus on the year. And that's the reason why we're speaking about this now. We'll stop here, inshallah. We'll continue for next week. Like I said, I don't like to make the lesson too long. I don't like to make it too short. And like I said, we know that everyone's attention span is different. So we try to take consideration, accommodate everyone. But we'll stop here. هذا وصلى الله وسلم مبارك على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك. Any questions, sisters can pass it over. تفضل أبو خليل.
So that was before the conquest of Altas, and still hurt.
It's clogged. It doesn't hurt, but it's clogged now. Okay. You said, did it take place before the conquest of Mecca?
Like before the conquest of the Taif, Altas, and Mecca, those three areas before that, was Muta implemented? Was the Sahaba and the Prophet Muhammad practicing the Muta, the temporary marriage, at that time?
The Prophet ﷺ had made it. That's what we're going to talk about. That's what we were going to speak about. That's the reason why I'm trying to leave you for next week. There's two aqwal of Ahl al-Ilm. Some say it was made permissible one time. It was permissible at one time. It was made unlawful twice. Some of them say it was made unlawful once. That they used to practice it, and then the Prophet ﷺ prohibited it. Then you'll find a majority. Let me shut up. Wait for next week. Next week, I'll see you next week, inshallah. Any questions on to the door? Your sisters have any questions?
In a way, you can see some good in it. For instance, for those early Muslims that were not necessarily sure about their mate, it's like I would understanding that. Okay, let's try our marriage out for 6 months. But a lot of things don't work out. You know,
the problem is we'll talk about the temporary marriages, how it's corrupted for the woman, because you don't have to spend on her, nor do you have to. Exactly, you don't have to spend on her. You have to spend no time. There's no distribution of the time. You don't have to spend on her, and you can marry as many as you want. That's a problem. That's a problem. You understand what I'm saying? Hold up. Mut'ah means temporary marriage. So that's the problem. Exactly. So that's why you'll find Ahl says like a woman's now is like she's like a rented animal that you utilize her for your desires and that's it basically. Exactly. That's the reason why. We'll talk about that next week. You're trying to wheel me in. Brothers, don't forget we're trying to start distribution of the pamphlets. So you see now, there's nobody here. Trying to distribute, to go out and distribute the pamphlets. That's the reason why we can't get anything done. Everybody's scattered everywhere. To some non-Muslims, yeah, there was supposed to be about 6. No. I'll talk to you about it after the class over. Let me stop here. Hadeeth sallallahu alaihi wa sallam baraka ala nabiyina Muhammad.